My name is Ted Marshallton. I am the inventor of the OmegaGarden, the world's only patented hydroponic rotating cylinder. There are several reasons for utilizing a rotating cylinder. First is that there is more than 3 times the surface area on the inside of the cylinder that it occupies on the floor space. Second, it's very easy to feed all the plants in the cylinder with one rotation by flooding the reservoir at the bottom of the rotation. Third is sort of an exercise effect on the plants that we've coined orbitropism. Plants are predominantly affected by gravity. Their roots, stems, and leaves growing up away from gravity, while the roots are growing down towards gravity. The rotating the plants results in faster, compact, multi-directional growth, producing superior plants with unprecedented strength. This video will give you an understanding of how to assemble and operate your OmegaGarden. I'm sure you're excited to get started, and I suggest that you watch this video through to the end before assembly. So let's get started. Step 1, assembly of the base. In box number 6, the base box, we will find a base plate, nutrient tray, drip wings, cross members A with the motor and B, the motor housing, the drive shaft, cylinder struts, packages of hardware, and a box with the casters and legs. Inside the caster box you will find casters and legs that easily install with the included hardware. The washer on the bolt, come in through the caster side, put the nut on the inside of the leg, and fasten. There's your end product. With the caster on the leg, you'll take the washer on the bolt, come in from the bottom of your base plate, and nuts to the bottom. And we have our locking casters, both on the same side, on the long side of the base plate, and locked, pressed down, release. You want to ensure that the locking casters are installed along the length of the cylinder. Now you're ready for step 2, assembly of the towers. Opening up the tower box, you want to be careful about, you've got timers on the inside of this tower that are protected by this cross member. So what I would suggest is that you take the box apart at the seam, or else you have to be quite careful lifting the whole thing out. The mogul sockets are right together up here as well. Now you've got the towers out of the box, you need to remove the faceplate. The next step is to place tower A onto the base plate. You will notice 4 threaded studs on either end of the base plate, and there are 4 corresponding holes in the bottom of each tower.
With the face plate off tower B, you're ready to fix it to the base plate. The threaded studs the same way as we did tower A.
The next step is to take off the fan bulb housing. That's this box here. There's 4 screws on the other side. We need to undo the wire stress relief, and down here we have a pin connector. There's threads on the pin connector, and then we come around to undo these screws. After the screws have come out of the front, you can pull the assembly out. After you have your towers assembled to the base plate, the next step is to take this top structural cross plate, and there are the threaded studs on the inside that affix to the slots that are on the top of the tower. It's very simple. Wire, you need to get up out of the way. During the assembly of the towers, you want to make sure that the towers are fastened securely at the base with the 7/16 nuts that are provided, and that the very top is also attached and secured with the same size nuts. You have now set up the foundation for the rest of the garden. Let's move on to step 3, installing the cross members. For step 3, we want to attach the cross member A to tower A using these lag bolts. After attaching cross member A, you need to fix the cooling fan onto the motor. There's a hole on the one side and the shaft, and you need to press it firmly onto the shaft.
Installing cross member A comes probably the most critical part of the installation of the drive shaft. And we're going to line up the set screw for the drive shaft onto the flat of the motor shaft, which is at a 45-degree angle that's accessed through this opening. You'll be able to tell when you've come all the way. There we go. And it'll just support itself. And now you can go to the installation of cross member B. On both ends of the drive shaft, attached to the cross member is a block bearing, and the set screws in each of them need to be tightened down, one onto the flat of the drive shaft and another one up onto the threads. And don't worry about damaging the threads. I'm not going to use them for this application. On the opposite end of the drive shaft, the bearing that we're going to tighten down is obscured by the motor mount. And there also is the other set screw that's on the opposite end of the flat for the drive shaft, which you don't want to play with. We want to go for the set screw that's going to hold the drive shaft onto the bearing. Now you can plug the motor into the outlet on the side of tower A, but don't plug the main power source in yet. And the cross members are the most critical part of the installation. It's important that you get the set screw onto the flat of the motor shaft. This is crucial for the smooth operation of the garden. If you have any problem with this, please don't hesitate to call us. Now you're ready for the next step, installing the cylinder. Step 4, the cylinder gear end assembly. Put the machine screws in, and it allows you to hold it better. The dovetailing ensures a precise fit. And our cylinder strut on top of that, washers and nuts. We have completed 3/4 of the cylinder and installed the 4 vertical struts. Now I'll just show you putting the last gear end in place. Now we are going to install our 3/4 cylinder onto the garden, resting it on the cross members. It'll be very obvious why we made it into 3/4. Make sure you have the brakes on the garden on. And we'll line it up into the idler wheels. We'll come in just underneath the lighting fixture and then roll up right after it so that you don't scratch the top of the garden. Affix the other. Now we can affix the last 1/4 panels for the cylinder. And make sure that you tighten all the nuts and bolts on the cylinder, and we'll bring the panels up flush. The screwdriver comes with the system, but you'll need to get yourself a ratchet. Well, at this point we've got our major structure of the garden completed. The cylinder gear end quarters are dovetailed to ensure precise fit, and you want to make sure that your strut assemblies are fastened correctly. If any of the bolts are askew, this will affect the rotation. And we can put the beauty plates on now, and just simple screws, and they'll should have a nice easy flush fit. So the largest of the 4 beauty plates is to house the motor, and there's little holes in it for the airflow for the fan. Looks good, right? You can start to see the structure appear. Nirvana is not far away. Now we'll move on to section 5, installing the bulbs on the glass tube. Okay, so now it's time to insert the bulb. You want to make sure that you don't touch it with your fingers, and it'll get oils on it. Okay, now we can go in through the hole in either end of the garden, through the tower. Be careful with this. And screw across, and it'll just rest in the hole on the other side. Okay, we're going to insert the next bulb in the fan bulb housing before we put it in the garden, or else you won't be able to get it in the garden. Now be very careful in placing the bulb fan housing inside the air-cooled tube up against the far wall of the tower, and line up the machine screw. After your light fan assembly has been mounted, I'm going to connect the pin connectors at the base, and we've got a wire stress relief right here that needs to be attached. Keep the wire safe from the heat of the ballast. Well, now we're done with everything inside the tower. We can reinstall the facing plate. But to be very careful when you're handling the glass, both the bulbs and the tube. You don't want to put your fingers on the bulbs. This will leave oil from your fingers and create hot spots, and can affect the longevity of the bulb. The glass tube, of course, you want to be careful with. All these things are expensive to replace. You are now ready for step 6, installing the feeding tray. Now the next step is to slide in the feeder tray. With your feeding tray in place, we need to insert the through-hole fitting. The next piece to install is our overflow adjustment. Just push it in until it's snug. That'll be watertight. Now the height of everything here is so that this pan can be easily slid in and out. But then once it's in order for you not to have to flood it very deep, we'll just put some 2x2 spacers underneath the pan. For step 6, the plumbing fittings are designed to fit easily into the reservoir, and the 2x4s will elevate the reservoir to deepen the feeding tray. Okay, you are now ready for step 7, pump and reservoir. This is how your pump will come. These are ball valves to restrict flow. It's going to sit upright underneath the garden inside the reservoir, but for the sake of the light, we need to have the reservoir out of the shot. And basically it just will fit onto your through hole, and you adjust the flow going either through this one or this one. This one will agitate the water that's in the res, and this will allow you to pump up into your feeder tray. And then you can add another length on so that this won't make any sound when it's over. And with your reservoir in place, you just reach under and fix it to the through hole. And your overflow water guide. Your garden comes with a 20-gallon reservoir. For those who would desire larger capacity, we have a drip ear float valve, which drips about 1 gallon an hour, and it will fill up this res from an external reservoir that you would have elevated above this one. You need to drill a 5/8 hole in the side of this reservoir that you can put your float valve into. Fix it with the nut. And it comes with a hose. One end is to go into the reservoir that you wish to fill up this one with. The other end, you need to create a siphon, so you suck on the one end, and then as the water flows in, you fix it into the back of the float valve. And now you can have unlimited capacity. Step 7, you want to make sure that you have properly adjusted your flow valves so that you don't overflow your reservoir and feeder tray and spill out onto the floor. So what we have here is a lateral stabilizer, and it can be just pushed up just slightly and tighten with a 9/16 on the back side. And that will just hold the garden from being able to crank around too much, but you don't come to the bottom. This should be able to spin freely. When you receive your garden, the C-channels have a PVC stick-on coating that you have to take off. Once you've got the protective coating off the C-channel, you're going to fix it through these L holes that are cut into the gear quarters on a little angle. And then a cotter pin will secure it. So the C-channel, you might spread it just a little bit to accommodate the rock wool, and then it just slides in from one end or the other. The rest of it up and put it in the wheel. Well, you put 24 C-channels in the garden, and now you've got your complete structure. Congratulations. You can check for the installation manual for setting the timers. And Shazam, full of plants. If we can get a close-up on this, you can see how extreme these basil stalks are for plants that are just a few weeks old and normally quite wimpy little things. Good luck, everybody. The revolution begins. You are now prepared for success. You have a fully functioning OmegaGarden, and help is just a phone call away, or you can go to our website at www.omegagarden.com, and I wish you the greatest success. No. Sorry, you missed that shot. You can't get